Alright, so I reverse engineered a foraging bag. Here's my prototype, just to kind of figure it out how I would put it together and explain it, etc., etc. And it just undoes like this, and there's your bag. This is the back configuration of it. Snap on the inside, so it snaps on the inside here. And this was a mistake, so I had to thread my cordage above the snap. But I learned from it. And then these grommets set in to attach it to the bag. So this is my first attempt, and I used black walnut stain to kind of stain the veggie tanned leather that I used. Didn't really take that well, but it did color it a little bit. So there's the first version of it, and then this is the version that we're going to make, and it's already set into a belt like so, and again it just comes apart like so. So the configuration is a little bit more precise, and then I didn't make the same mistake twice, so this fastens on itself here. Configuration on the back is the same, okay, except you have the grommets here covered by the belt strap. Like that. I don't know if you can see that, but then there's the snap on the inside. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can try and show how to make a forager bag, at least one variation of it, my variation. Put this up and snap together. So there you go. So here are the two pattern pieces here. We have the bag pattern, which is essentially almost a square. This is 8.5 inches across with a 1/4 inch allowance on each side, and then this is 9 inches high with a 3/4 allowance at the top, and that's to house the drawstring. The bottom here will be on the fold of our fabric. If you do not have enough pieces of fabric to put this on a fold, then you just cut 2 squares out and you'd sew the right and left sides and the bottom. So that's all you'd have to do. So this is one of 2 pieces here, and the other piece is a little bit more complicated because this is the strap piece. This is essentially 13.5 inches long or high by 2 inches wide. Okay, and then I have holes here that'll hold the snaps here and here. This hole here will hold the snap. This hole on these sides here and the outside will hold the eyelets or the grommets, and then these holes here will be stoppers for the slit to house the belt in this particular design. So this is how this configuration will look. These dots here just denote kind of the fold because of the thickness of the bag canvas that we'll be using, or even leather if you choose to do so. And then this is just a bend here as well as this bottom part folds up to meet it. So I'm going to introduce the pieces, the essential tools that we'll need for this particular project. A lot of this you could do by hand. I'm just going to quickly do this with modern tools. It's not a rustic project. It's not even really a primitive project. It is just kind of a wild crafting, bush-crafty sort of project that's kind of a nice to have when you're out and about collecting acorns or berries or kindling or whatever. So these are the 2 pattern pieces. I believe these will fit on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. I'll see if I will maybe make these downloadable so you can print these out as is. For those of you that are handy like that, you can modify this. You can make the bag wider or taller The same with the strap. You can make it, you can lengthen it, you can shorten it, do whatever you want. So again, I'll make it a free download. I do accept donations for the effort. That would be much appreciated, but I'll just make it easy for those people that wish to see if they can attempt to make this. So here are the essential components or materials and equipment that you'll need for this project if you're trying to follow along. I basically have a bolt of canvas. I'm not quite sure how many yards. Got a few yards on here, but this is a bolt of papyrus bull denim, 100% cotton, or basically canvas. For other projects, for when I make mucklucks and whatnot. So this will be our bag here. Waxed canvas or waxed material is recommended, as that it becomes waterproof. The waxing process is a whole nother endeavor that requires a whole nother video. I've never done it, so I'll try my hand at doing some. I'll probably make another forager bag that uses waxed canvas. I'll see if I can try to show the process as I do it and put it on video to archive it for you. So you'll need some material, clothing weight, garment weight. Leather will work. Buckskin. I don't have enough buckskin left to do this because I would really love to have done this with buckskin. Any sort of material that you choose. If you're a weaver, you can weave your own material, etc., etc. So just material to make your bag. So set this aside here. Now I have some of leather remnant here. This is vegetable tanned leather. This is about 2 ounces. Ounces is the thickness. That's how vegetable tanned cowhide is weighed. Garment grade or garment weight is like 1 ounce. So it's really just like garment. Buckskin tends to be about 1 ounce, but it's not veggie tanned. It's usually it becomes kind of a suede like material. So we're going to be, for this project, I'm going to use a lightweight piece of veggie tanned leather, which again, this is 2 ounce leather, and this should be enough for the strap. So I've got plenty for the strap here. So that'll fit just fine, and for some more when I choose to make another one. Okay, a hole punch. There's a bunch of different leather making materials. A hole punch would be useful. Let's see, ruler or tape measure would be useful. Let's see. This is line snaps with a setter. They come with an anvil and a setter, which is this object here. There's a male and a female part with the with making a snap, and I'll demonstrate how this works. You will need a mallet with this. So this is a mallet that you use to set your snaps in. Let's see, you'll need a cutting tool. So with the leather, it's good to use a nice utility knife. There are some leather shears that you can buy that'll cut through mostly lightweight leather. Let's see here, what else that we have here. Everything else for the most part is miscellaneous. Okay, so these are really the kind of essential parts here that you'll need. Again, this is a hole punch. You'll need some measuring tools. Again, tape measure is handy, but you'll probably need something more firm because you'll need to use your cutting tool. It's best to even have something that's metal, like this L square here. That's very handy and safe. Here is leather shears for when you want to make some, in case you don't have a cutting tool or you need to make round or curved shapes. This will cut through leather pretty good. Okay, you also need some eyelets. And these are like grommets. Grommets are 2 pieces. And these are small ones. See if I can show these on camera here. They're really kind of small. But this is an eyelet. And what this will do is this will keep the fabric, the canvas, from ripping or fraying, because we'll need to attach the leather strap to the fabric bag. So this is what's going to allow us to do that. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the snaps, the line snaps, and just so we can kind of go through this fairly quickly. I won't have to do a lot of explaining on the back end. So these are the 2 parts of a snap. Okay, so this is the one, this is the post, and this is the back side, the shiny side that we all see, and then this is the piece. This is the female piece. We'll just call it that the male piece sets into. Alright, and this goes in there just like that, and you use your setter to bend the post to fasten it onto your leather or your material. We'll call this the male piece. Again, we have a post. Here we go. So we have a post, and then we have the male piece here. And it's just like the female part, where you set this on the post and you use a setter to drive that down, and it sets or fixes itself to the leather or your material. This male part will fit in, or snaps. Everybody's familiar with snaps and how they work. Okay, this wants to be obstinate. Alright. So these 2 pieces fit in together like that. So they'll snap onto each other. If I do it now, they'll be very difficult to take apart. It's very hard to get the leverage. But that's exactly how they'll fit. Okay, so that's basically the main essential tools and materials that we'll need, except for the cordage. And we'll need a length of cordage. Okay, lastly, you'll need some cordage for your drawstring, and this is about 1/4 inch. I'll probably need about 2 40-inch pieces, I believe. You'll just probably need, think of just a 5-foot length of cordage, whatever type of cordage you'd like. So I'm just going to use this because this is what I have at the moment. I could use natural cordage, or I could twist some cordage from some of the dog bane or nettle fibers that I've got. But I'm going to go ahead and use this store-bought stuff for this particular project. So you will need cordage. To help thread this through, a safety pin that is in the box here, right there, will help. I'll show you how to do that when we get to that stage. Okay, I'm going to show some miscellaneous materials and tools that you may need. I've got some dye here. So this is green dye for the leather. And that was green, this is brown. And I've got what we call leather balm or atom wax, that with atom wax it says. This is what gives a nice sheen to the finished vegetable tan leather, especially after you dye it. Let's see, and what'll help as well is these, either a brush or an applicator for the dye. This comes in these are little cotton dabbers that work pretty nicely. So you'll be sure that you'll put something down to protect your surfaces and maybe your carpet or your floor, like newspaper or plastic tarp or something like that, because a lot of these dyes are very volatile and they will stick and not come out. Especially like the USMC black, that'll just is whatever it gets on, it'll just be ruined. Say you get it on your carpet or really anything. So you got to be careful with some of these leather dyes. So that's just a caveat. All right, so let's get started with our project. I'm going to start with the bag part first. And what I have here is I've got my bolt of denim, or my canvas here. And I may have to do some finagling here to make sure everything gets on camera. But really what my goal is to give an idea of what I'm doing. So I'm gonna adjust the camera here a little bit. Okay. So what I have here is I have a fold. So this is pretty wide stuff. So I have a fold. So if you remember in the pattern that we have here, this goes on the fold. If you do not have enough material for it to fold over, or you're patching two different types of material together, then ignore the fold here and just cut out two different pieces. You're going to sew on three sides, the right, left, or left, right, and then the bottom. You're going to leave the top open. So essentially I'm going to make use of this line here. It's not perfectly straight, but we'll fix that. And I'll put this on the fold. And then what I want to do is I want to take I've got a coloring pencil here, and I'm going to do an outline here. And I'm also going to not forget to include my allowances. I have a 1/4 inch allowance on each side, left and right, if I'm working on the fold. If I'm not working on the fold, you want a 1/4 inch allowance on the bottom. Okay, which you would have to do some math and basically make this 10 inches, because this is 3/4 inch allowance at the top for our drawstring, and then you'll need a 1/4 inch allowance at the bottom, which essentially would be a full inch, so that you have a full 9 inch length. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to take my pen here, and I'm going to trace or outline. Okay, so an L square comes in quite handy here. I'll be able to make sure that I have nice square lines that I can mark in my allowances. And I'm just going to kind of do little dashes for my allowance that I can see here. And obviously if this was darker material, I'd use a crayon or a marker or fabric chalk or some sort. So hopefully you can see lightly kind of my outline here of our bag pattern. Okay, so I'm just going to go here, because this will be on the inside. No one will be able to see the color pencil, and the color pencil will wash off. I wouldn't use pen or marker on your fabric. So we'll just do F, so we'll know which side is which. I've marked in my allowances so I know where to start sewing. And basically, since it's on the fold, all I have to do is cut this out, and then I should get a nice piece that's longer than what we have here, but that's okay, because we're trying to make an enclosure or a bag. So here are our two pieces here. I could sew this by hand if I didn't have a sewing machine. I'm gonna use a sewing machine because it'll make things faster. Again, not primitive, but it'll just make things faster. But essentially this will be our bag. Alright, I got my sewing machine here, and here's our bag that's inside out, and I've marked the top here on both sides of our allowance, because what we want to do is we want to make drawstring openings on the sides, but I don't want to leave my edges raw. Okay, and so I don't want to leave my edges raw. And usually how professionals do it, seamstresses, tailors, whatnot, is they tend to serge the edges, or they fold them over and sew them onto themselves. I'm not going to do all that, so I'm just going to serge these edges right quick. And how I do that is the settings on my machine is I can get a pretty fine and wide zigzag motion by certain settings. Every sewing machine is different, so that's why I didn't show it. But I'm just doing that so that the edges won't fray apart over time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna probably bump my camera here. Trapped. All right, and then I'm just gonna begin to sew. And then I go backwards to reinforce. A couple of times. And what that'll do is it kind of finishes off the edge a little bit so it won't unfray over time. So I'm going to do that to the remaining 3 sides, and then we'll sew these pieces together. We've serged the edges. Just cut off some of the threads here. We've serged the edges, and you can see here that it's starting to fray here. Alright, so that's something we gotta be mindful of. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my handy dandy iron here, and on the line, you may not be able to see on camera, but on the allowance line, I'm just gonna fold this down, and I'm gonna use my handy dandy iron to press this down. In sewing, your iron becomes indispensable. Sometimes you don't really, sometimes you'll need it to help you pin stuff down or even tack stuff down if you don't have enough pins or something like that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to serge this down, so it'll keep it from fraying, and we'll sew it. There's all kinds of fancy ways to make this look all nice and clean and blah blah blah. This is a rustic piece, I don't care. I'm just going to serge zigzag stitch this down. So I'm going to do this on the other side, on our allowance line. And yeah, just serge that down, add some steam to it, help press this down. And that's it. So it's good to have an iron. You don't necessarily need it. You may need some pins though. So I'm about to stitch down a drawstring casing here. Again, I've unfolded the whole piece. All right, so you don't sew the 2 pieces together. You're just doing 1 piece at a time. I've changed my zigzag setting slightly to a larger zigzag, and I'm just going to start zigzagging the pieces. I go backwards to lock it in, and then remove my pins as I come to them, so I don't break my needle. Continue my stitch. I'll tack everything down. Backwards to finish, to lock it in. Okay, so now if you'll notice on the zigzag stitch, I make sure that get this on camera here, I'm terrible at this. I make sure that the edge that the edge is being caught in between the zigzag. It doesn't really matter, but I'm trying to keep the edge from fraying, so that's key. Okay, so I just need to do the other side, and we'll be good to go to stitch the bag together. Now we are all set to stitch our piece together. And what I want to do, and I'm going to darken this up a little bit. So So I don't want to sew the casing together. I only want to start sewing from just underneath the casing down to the bottom on both sides. Okay? So because again, this is where we're going to thread our cordage through. So leave these edges open. So this side's a little wonky. I tried to get this straight, but it didn't want to cooperate with me. So we'll make it work. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It'll be just fine. And gotta make my adjustments so that I have a straight stitch. That is it. Next, we're going to serge the ends of these so they don't fray too much, and you don't have to do that. After a little bit of wear, they'll lock themselves in, but just for a finishing touch, I'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so we've got this pretty much sewn together, and I've serged the edges here. They look a little rough for now, but they'll settle down. I made a mistake here. So when I fold the casing down, I needed to serge the edges here on this inside here. I needed to start lower. So I needed to start like from the top 1.5 inches and serge the edge all the way around. I'm not going to worry about it right now. If you make that same sort of mistake and you think it'll be a problem with the type of material, there's types of glues that you can do, anti-fray glues that you can stick to it. You can possibly undo this, take a seam ripper and take it all apart and serge it properly. If you want to do it that way. With this canvas, I'm not that concerned about it. After a little wear and tear, like I said, the fray will settle down a bit, and it'll just add to the character of it. But I did make a mistake. So in other words, on the pattern here, what I'll need to add is where you're going to start the fray is again another 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch down. So by about here is where you'll start to serge to about right here. Okay, so when this folds down, these whole edges here will be protected. So that's the mistake I made on this project. Not a big deal. Specifically, again, I'm not making this for anybody except myself, but I wanted to make sure that I explained that. So now we're going to turn this inside or right side in and take a look at it. There we go, just turn that right side in, push the corners out, really good. So we have nice square edges. Like that. And then we kind of get rid of the strings here. Cut those pieces off here. Again. And now we've got it. And then just take our iron here and press everything down. And there we've got it here. So again, to get rid of some of these straggly strings, a pair of shears will take care of that. But we've got our casing, and so next what we'll do with that is we'll go ahead and we will thread our cordage through and get that part done. Okay, so now we're ready to insert drawstrings into our bag here, and I've got a small safety pin here, and I've got my cordage. This is artificial cordage, and when you cut it and keep it from fraying, oftentimes you need to kind of melt the edges together so that they don't come apart on you. If it's natural cordage, you really don't have to worry about that. You can either whip the edges with smaller pieces of cordage or just put knots in the end. You can do the same thing with the artificial cordage as well. But oftentimes you just use a lighter and that'll keep everything in place. Now, for this particular project, I have two 35-inch pieces of cordage. So these are 35 inches a piece, or basically 70 inches worth of cordage here. And I believe this is a 1/4 of an inch in diameter for this particular project. So what I'm going to do with the safety pin is we're going to take one end of the cordage, and we're going to thread our safety pin into the cordage like so, like that. And this is going to help us thread our cordage into the casing. And all you have to do is just kind of scoot this around, and you use the safety pin as a guide or a stiff edge so that you can guide your cordage through the casing. So it comes out the other side. And for this particular style, I'm going to go ahead and go into the other side here. So we're using 2 pieces of cordage for this, for our drawstring. And then we pull it out and make sure the ends are even. Okay. So this is one side with the cordage all the way through. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this other piece of cordage is I'm going to go in this side, and I'm going to thread it around so it comes out, and we end up having something that looks like this. So we'll have cordage on this side here, okay? So I'm gonna go in the opposite way and come out the same side. Alright, so we've come out the other side. Make sure that the cordage on each side is about even. And we have our cordage threaded through, alright? And basically what will happen is when you cinch these together, you can close up your bag tight and keep whatever you need in safe.